Pets Add Life, your guide to the latest in pet trends, products, and the joy of the human-animal bond, with Kristen Levine and Chris Bonafati, powered by the American Pet Products Association and Dog TV.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pets Add Life. I am your host, Chris Bonafati, joined as always by my witty and wise co-host, Kristen Levine.
Oh, I love it. Witty and wise. We're on the W's.
Yeah, without fail, the witty and wise Kristen Levine, joined as always by the idiotic and sometimes prone to disaster Chris Bonafati. We're in April now. The trees are blooming, the birds are singing. The mental health is recovering out of the seasonal depression, and here we are to bring you another awesome episode.
Yeah, we are, and I'm busy planning a summer vacation, which is I'm entirely too late to be planning for. But we want to head out to Utah this summer. So
don't bring that up to the wife. I'll tell you, this is for...
Tell her not to listen to this episode.
Well, no, she's been listening to, watching The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I don't know if you've heard of that show.
No, I haven't.
It's like the Housewives, but they're all Mormon.
Yeah.
So she's been on like this weird Utah kick, and I've got an off-air story about that. I'm not gonna embarrass her.
Oh, okay. We'll save that for the Patreon.
Well, yeah. Subscribe to our non-existent Patreon and hear all about Chris's personal life, because that's what the people want. But besides that, hey, we've got two interesting stories, two truly awesome guests. We're gonna recommend two products, and at the very end of the show, we're gonna answer two of your warning questions. That's not a word, but a throwback to our previous episode. And if you're not watching all of our episodes, you should go ahead, check us out. YouTube, Dog TV, the new Dog TV Amazon Fast channel. Check it out. We're marathoning on there. Sometimes you can get Chris and Kristen.
We're everywhere.
Back to back. But if you want an awesome ad-free experience, check us out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to check us out on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. Like, subscribe, smash all those buttons. Do it. Do it because I love you. And you love me back. But without further ado, let's get into today's episode and kick it off with story time.
Story time.
Kristen and Chris present Story Time.
Why don't you go first? Since you're on a roll already.
All right, yeah, I am on a roll, and I've got a Chris energy story here for you. This one carries an immense amount of Chris energy, and I'm gonna read. And I love doing this sometimes, where I just read the headline word for word, and you could understand why I clicked on this link. And this is coming out of NBC. The headline is. Man found with live turtle hidden inside his pants at New Jersey airport.
Oh my gosh.
So, I know it's not necessarily a pet-related thing, and it's not, sometimes Chris, he brings these science-related things, or we're talking about research or something cool happening in the industry. But as always, I turned to my incredible pile of sources called Google, and I typed in, animal news and stories. And this was one of the first links, and I clicked it, and I was like, the people got to know. The people got to know that there are some truly interesting people out there. So, Pennsylvania man going through security found to have a live turtle concealed in his pants, which I gotta know, A, did you really think that was gonna work? Like, did you when you had the turtle, were you like, how I get this turtle on the plane? We smuggle it in my pants. It was 5 inches long, a red-eared slider.
The turtle, right?
Yeah, turtle. So, unsure whether this was a pet or whatever. And yeah, the turtle was confiscated. A guy ends up missing his flight. And this is the TSA Federal Security Director had this to say. Thomas Carter, TSA Federal Security Director for New Jersey. We have seen travelers try to conceal knives and other weapons on their person, in their shoes, and their luggage. However, I believe this is the first time we have come across someone who is concealing a live animal down the front of his pants. As best as we can tell, the turtle was not harmed by the man's actions.
Thank goodness.
But
Maybe he was thinking because it wasn't metal, it wouldn't be detected.
Yeah, they do call them metal detectors, but they're quite more advanced than that. Congrats to
Right,
TSA
right.
for keeping us safe. But you know, when I see stories like this, Kristen, you know what always goes through my mind? These
What?
people live amongst us. They live amongst us. They're next to you at the
They
grocery store.
and they procreate.
They procreate. They operate motor vehicles. They vote in elections. Like it
Yes.
is like what? Turtle in
I
the
know.
pants is brand new for me too. Never heard this before. And if you're out there and you're considering, hey, maybe a turtle's the right pet for me, this is not how you treat them. You heard it here first, folks. You don't try to bring them on flights. You know, turtles have enough of a hard time dealing with being outside of like their natural like aquatic / amphibious habitats. So we're not flying with turtles in 2025, folks. Leave them at home. Get somebody to come in and feed the turtle. You don't need to bring them on an airplane.
Maybe it was a therapy turtle.
You know what? That would be a unique claim too. Yeah, this is my emotional security turtle, and I can't fly without him. That would have made more sense to me. But I mean, why hide it too? It's just I've got so many questions. They need to identify this man, and we need to have him on the podcast.
We need to have him on the show.
Yeah, we need to have him on the show. Ron, write down turtle pants guy, turtle down the pants guy, pencil him in if we ever find out who this guy is.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Right. Well, my story is
yeah, good luck following that up.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. My story is about CPR for dogs, what every pet owner should know.
Much more important. Yeah, much more important.
Much more important. And this actually came about from a viral TikTok video that was done by a veterinary nurse, also known as a vet tech. Her name was Jade. Well, her handle on TikTok is jade.the.vet.nurse. And she did this really cool video about life-saving CPR tips for dogs on TikTok. And it sparked a ton of engagement. I think they had over 6 million views and nearly 500,000 comments. And she was just kind of sharing some real life experiences in her veterinary hospital performing CPR on their pets. So a lot of people really enjoyed the video. They found it really valuable, as you might imagine. And one veterinarian on TikTok weighed in to just say, let me just add a little advice here. She says, know the nearest 24-hour emergency vet. And that's important information for any pet parent to know is, should there be an emergency, know exactly where you're headed for 24-hour, like after hours type of care.
Yep.
Now this is the other tip the vet gave, and I want your thoughts on this. She says, call ahead if you're bringing your pet in for CPR. So I'm thinking, can it wait? I mean, that I feel like if your dog needs CPR, it needs to happen right then, not, hey, I'll be there in 30 minutes. Kind of, I don't know. Anyway,
well, I was a lifeguard in a previous life, and there's several different kinds of choking, and choking can be an immediate concern, or you could be long choking. Choking just implies that there is something lodged in the airway, and sometimes you can be getting some air and not enough. Sometimes you'll be getting no air, and now you're in a life-saving emergency situation. But sometimes somebody could just have something lodged, and I imagine dogs with their pizzle sticks and all the toys and stuff like that. Just being outside and chewing on stuff. It could go either way. If it's, I do agree with that, where if it is not like, okay, this needs to happen now, it may be better to let a professional handle it so that you don't do damage to that soft tissue that's in their throat.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And then she also added that if you're interested in learning CPR dogs, consult a veterinarian or a certified pet CPR trainer. And that made me think of Arden Moore. Have we had Arden on the show yet? I feel like...
Kristen, I don't know the answer to that.
I feel, well, if we haven't, we should, because Arden Moore is a pet first aid CPR trainer. She's amazing. And if you go to her website, which is Pet First Aid for You, that's for the number 4 letter U.com, she actually offers certification classes for pet professionals. And she also offers non-certification classes via Zoom for, people like us, pet parents. So I thought that was a a really great reminder that it's a very good idea to know how to do pet CPR and human CPR should you ever need to.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
Beyond the Leash, exploring the untold stories of pet passion and professionalism.
All right, join me in welcoming our guest, Dr. Patricia McConnell. She's a renowned applied animal behaviorist, author, and speaker with over 3 decades of experience enhancing human-animal relationships. Now, she earned her PhD in zoology from the University of Wisconsin at Madison in 1988 and focusing on dog behavior and interspecies communication. Dr. McConnell, who does not want me to call her doctor, we'll call her Patricia, has authored several acclaimed books, including The Other End of the Leash and her memoir, The Education of Will. She also taught the biology and philosophy of human-animal relationships at the University of Wisconsin for 25 years and co-hosted Wisconsin Public Radio's Calling All Pets for 14 years. So her work has significantly influenced the fields of canine and feline behavior and training. So welcome, Patricia.
Thank you. So good to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. And I wanted to kick it off by asking you, what inspired you to pursue a career in animal behavior, and how did any early experiences you had shape your approach?
Yeah, that's an easy question to answer. I came out of the chute looking for animals. I didn't want dolls. I had 52 stuffed animals when I was 5 or 6 or something. And I actually would line them up in my bedroom, and I had a little one of those little easels, and I would teach them. I was their teacher. So, I mean, I was doing that when I was 5 or 6, and it took me decades to put all that together. So I've always loved animals, but the career, Kristen, I didn't really think about until pretty much later in life when I went back to school as a very much adult to first go through school and get a BS in science and zoology. So when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a vet. No, actually, that's not true. I wanted to marry a rancher because
don't we all?
Who doesn't?
Don't we all?
1955, right? I was in Arizona. How do you live with animals? You marry a rancher, right? You couldn't possibly be a veterinarian if you were a woman. I mean, that wasn't even on my radar. But then, as time went on, I realized what I love is behavior. And I discovered at an Animal Behavior Society conference, there was this field called applied animal behavior. And then it was like, I was just lost. It was like off and on. Yeah.
So, Patricia, I want to talk a little bit about your work and kind of your unique spin on it. And in your book, you kind of talk about how our human behavior can impact our dog's behavior. So can you elaborate a bit on how our actions and body language impact our dog's responses to their training?
Yeah. Oh, so many things to unpack in that great question.
His big question, a meaty one. We gave you the layup, and now here's the hard one.
So first of all, the fact that so I'm in school, right? And I'm in graduate school, and I'm studying animal behavior, and I'm watching a lot of primate classes. I'm actually working with little tiny adorable primates.
Oh my God.
And so I start, I'm thinking about us as primates. And so, I spend all my time in school thinking about us as primates, closely related to chimpanzees and bonobos. And then at night I go to dog training classes where I'm volunteering. And I start making comparisons. I see people go, sit, sit, sit to their dog. And then that afternoon, I watch a video of a chimpanzee going, hoo, 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 hoo. And I see people with a leash in their hand, using the leash inappropriately, just sort of thrashing around it a lot. And then I watch videos of chimpanzees with a stick in their hand. So that was part of where the other end of the leash came from. It's like, wait, we are mammals like dogs. We are primates, and we share so much with dogs. We're playful as adults, which is very rare. We're super social, like bizarrely social in the mammal world, as are dogs, though. But we are visual. And we don't use our noses as much, that much consciously. And dogs are always watching us, and we're concentrating on speech. So a lot of what I started focusing on is wait, that dog is watching that person and she's saying, come, but she's saying it, first of all, like how often have you heard somebody say, buddy, come, and then sort of move forward, come, which means in dog language, stop, don't you dare move forward, right? So the more you start learning about those comparisons, you can see how we're bonded by our social nature, our love of family, our playfulness, but we're often miscommunicating.
Yeah, so it sounds like a disconnect between our body language and what we're verbally asking of them.
Yeah, we tend to concentrate on what we say, and professional dog trainers learn to concentrate equally on how you say it. So come should be come, not come, right? But also, what are you doing with your body? Because your dog is watching you all the time, right? So if you lean forward, you're saying like, I'm blocking you. If you say come, then you're asking your dog to come to you. So the more you learn that, and it's not rocket science, it's really not. It's just attending to it and learning it. And it just makes your relationship with your dog so much happier for everybody involved.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I just want to shift gears a little bit and talk a bit about aggression, specifically canine aggression.
Sure.
So what are some common misconceptions that we have about our dogs, about aggressive behavior in dogs? And how can we effectively address that?
You just asked one great questions, but each one needs at least 2 hours. I'm just saying. It's your fault for asking questions that you can go in depth with. But I would say the most common one is the belief, the myth, the oft-repeated mantra that dogs are being aggressive because they're dominant. You know, they're growling or snarling because they're dominant. And if you get dominance over your dog, all that will go away. And that you should, any sign of what we consider to be aggression, and I put that in quotes very, very purposely, because most what we call aggression is not aggression at all biologically. It's fear. So a lot of times, for example, you have a dog who's afraid of strangers. Man, Chris, you're perfect. You got a beard, you got a hat on, like you're like
a perfect stranger.
You're a perfect, scary male stranger.
It's not even the first time I've heard that today.
You're not the first one to tell him that.
I suspect you're absolutely delightful, but you get my point, right?
Yeah, I know I do. Believe me.
So a dog who's fearful, shy of unfamiliar people might growl or sort of bark aggressively without low, threatening barks, maybe pilo erect with the hair standing up. And people are like, they're going to punch that. They're going to give it a leash jerk. It's like, no, cut that out. That's dampening down the expressions of the fear, but it's not changing the fear. And that's fear, right? And so much of what dogs do is because they're confused, they're scared, because they really are helpless. I mean, we have the leashes, we have control of the food, right? They're pretty helpless. And we put them in situations in which they're helpless a lot. So I would say thinking dominant sort of rules our relationship and you have to be dominant is the most problematic and destructive myth that's out there.
Yeah, that's a great point. So we talked a lot about how we and our body language kind of impact the relationship with the dog. But what happens when a second or a third dog enters the mix? How do we use what you're teaching to sort of integrate that new member of our family into our pack?
You did it again. You just can't stop.
We ask the hard-hitting questions here on the Pal Podcast. No mercy.
I love it, you guys. I love it. So, oh my goodness. Okay. One, the more each of us learns to read dog body language, the better things will go. One of the mistakes that I often see people make when they're introducing unfamiliar dogs is the dogs are on a leash. Everybody is clustered around them, staring holding their breath, which to a dog means like, uh-oh, dad is nervous, something must be wrong, So, and if I see two dogs approaching each other and they're both really stiff, and maybe their tail is wagging, but it's like stiff, but the tip is wagging, but the dog is stiff and their mouths are closed, I'm like, ooh, no, we're not going to have those dogs meet each other because things don't look relaxed here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're introducing dogs, the best way to do it is to, one, have somebody who really knows how to read dog language. Do it in a safe situation where the dogs have as much freedom as possible. So a fenced area, if possible, not home, not anybody's territory. Best to do it in a neutral territory. Dogs on long lines, and so you could, you have some control, but you're not like holding a leash tight, putting tension in.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I like to have people do is just walk, keep the dogs apart. One walks north, one walks south. You sort of walk parallel back and forth like this, and then you switch so the dogs can sniff each other's scent. They can, they can meet each other through their urine, right? Thank God we don't do that as humans. But,
Thank goodness.
but dogs do, right? And so let them meet that way. And then watching the dogs, and if you see signs of like, oh, I'm really happy and relaxed and my body is loose, you let them sniff, keeping the leashes loose. But most importantly, you keep walking. Don't stand and stare at them. I'm always like, I feel like a record. I'm like, keep moving. And I'm with people and they stop and I'm like, come on, let's go, keep moving. So, because that's where it takes the tension away. So that's the quick and dirty version of an answer to your question.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And you're doing great with these speed answers. Let me ask you about this, Patricia. Dog training methodologies have changed so much over the years. What stands out to you as some of the best, most positive changes in dog training?
Well, you said it. Positive.
Positive.
That was a great lead in. The understanding of how we know so much about how to influence behavior of any sentient animal. One of my favorite books I didn't write. It was written by Karen London called Treat Everyone Like a Dog. And it's how to use the basic principles of animal learning, how to influence those around you, whether it be your dog or your husband or your daughter, and the hardest one to train, yourself. And a lot of what we have learned through a lot of good science and a lot of experience is that positive reinforcement is incredibly powerful. It's not just giving cookies to dogs, right? It's not bribing them, but it's understanding that every individual sentient animal has choices to make and that their behavior has consequences. And if their consequence is something they really, really want, like a higher salary or a longer vacation or a lot of likes on your, Facebook, anything that we
take
want,
all three.
like chocolate for me, chocolate. I will work for chocolate, right? But punishment can be effective. However, it has to be done exactly right. You can't make mistakes. It has to be done every time. And it can very, very badly damage the relationship between two individuals. So this current understanding of how to use positive reinforcement, because it's really simple in a sense, give the dog something it wants if it does what you want. But actually, some of the details aren't quite as obvious. You have to learn them. Again, it's not rocket science. If you just learn a couple of things, then it just gets really easy, and it's so powerful, so powerful. I mean, I could stop my border collies, and admittedly, they are border collies. They are not beagles. But my dogs, I just put a video up on this. My dog's tearing to the barn at 20 miles an hour, smoking. And I can stop him and turn her around and come back to me. And that's all with positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, Patricia, we are coming up on the end of our interview here, but I want to give you a chance to tell our listeners where they could find your books, where they could learn more about your work or get more information about all these wonderful resources you may have.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris. So if you just go to my name, PatriciaMcConnell.com, 2 C's, 2 N's, and 2 L's, PatriciaMcConnell.com.
Doubles across the board.
You can access my books. You can access my blog, which is really, really fun. I'm still doing a blog. I'm old, but there's thousands of people all around the world who read it, and it's beautiful community. It's a village of people who really love dogs from all over the world. And then on my website, there's also a section called the Learning Center. There are a bunch of videos. All of my blogs many of my blogs are posted there, et cetera, et cetera. So just go to my name. I'm there.
We'll definitely be checking it out, because if it's anything like this interview, you're somehow managing to take what you said, 2 hours worth of information, and you're boiling it down into something digestible, which
well,
is
you ask good questions.
I appreciate that. But not everybody has your gift. So thank you so much for sharing it with us today.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you so much.
So, Kristen, it's kind of funny. We talk to a lot of people about how they got into the pet industry, and you and I have kind of different stories. I kind of fell into it, and for you, it was a calling from the get-go. And she definitely falls into that more your camp. But I thought it was so cute how she said, she was lining up all of her stuffed animals and teaching them stuff. And I was like, man, if I did the same thing, like with my toys right now, I would be wearing a mask fighting crime on the streets of Manhattan, with some type of ridiculous logo on my chest. But I think it's really cool when people are able to really capitalize on that childhood dream and make it a reality.
And she said she didn't even connect the dots until later in life. So sometimes we don't realize that until later. There was one last question I wanted to ask her, but we had to let her go. I wondered if she ever did marry a rancher.
And if not, there's still time. There's still time.
Chris, once again, we were somewhere without you. I attended VMX, which is a veterinary conference in, where was that? Orlando, I think. I get confused where I was.
Yeah, you were in Orlando.
Yeah, but I got to interview Dr. Mary Gardner. She's a co-founder of Lap of Love, which is a company that I am a huge fan of. And we're going to take a listen to that interview now.
Let's do it.
You all are going to love our next guest, Dr. Mary Gardner, co-founder of Lap of Love, which that's a whole nother interview that we're going to have you back for, because we want to talk about that. Okay. But you're here at VMX educating veterinarians about a topic that's really a passion topic for you, and that's geriatric pet care, right?
Yes, it is. I love it. A skinny old cat, a wobbly dog, and the families that are helping to manage them.
Yeah, and I wanted to have you on the show because I noticed that one of the talks you're giving is dogs, home care tips for aging dogs. Mm-hmm. So you're educating vets so that they can educate their clients about how to make our senior dogs more comfortable. First off, senior dog starts about what age?
Okay, so this is a great question. It's a little bit of size dependent because the larger the dog, the shorter the lifespan, sadly. Yeah. But it's usually 7 years is when a senior, what we categorize as senior. But if you think about us as humans, like when is a human a senior? Right? We all argue, is it 55, is it 60, is it 65?
Yeah.
So it's usually we agree on 65, and I think it's because I don't want to be that until a certain time.
Right.
But it's usually the last 10 to 15% of our lifespan where we deal with a lot of problems. So even though we're senior at 7 or 8, it's when the problems start around 10, 11, 12, and it is size dependent.
Okay, all right. Well, let's talk about some of the ways that pet parents can keep their senior dogs, aging dogs, more comfortable at home.
Yeah. I think the number one problem that I see is mobility issues. Mm-hmm. So whether it's arthritis, which is an obvious one, or a disc disease, or what we call a neuropathy. So you'll see a lot of feet dragging and they stumble on things. Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons for this, or even obesity. It comes into play because we tend to overfeed anyway. But then as they get older, they're like, maybe we'll get more.
Yeah.
So if we've got mobility issues, which is the number one thing I see, it's really important to make sure that pets still have good traction because we need to keep using our muscles.
Yes.
It's like physical therapy, and just even walking around the house properly is good physical therapy. And so I live in South Florida, and most homes across the country are tile or wood.
Right.
And it's an ice rink. So we have to make sure we've got really good traction. So whether it's yoga mats or bath mats with the rubber backing, there's some booties or paw products that we can have them put on as well if the pet tolerates that.
Right.
But that alone is first a big issue. It's really helpful. Then there's other products that can help if the dog's has a serious mobility issue where they need certain harnesses.
Right.
And there's a lot of products out there. There's some that I prefer for many reasons. But, there's also certain ramps or additional steps that we can use around our house to help them keep safe in that aspect.
Right.
Another huge issue that people don't realize that older dogs get is cognitive canine dysfunction. It's like dementia, in humans. And people are always just getting old. And he could be wandering around more, maybe not even recognizing you, maybe barking for food at 3 in the afternoon because their timing is off. A lot represent as panting and pacing, usually throughout the night or also throughout the day, and more drooling because they're anxious.
Right. What do we do about that?
I know, it's really sad.
Yeah.
First is the recognition is important.
Yes.
And so knowing that he's not just getting old or she's not just getting old, but seeing your veterinarian as soon as you can, because the sooner we can start some medications and some also alternative options, the better.
Right.
So that's really important, because by the time I see them when they're very, very old, I'm dealing with massive anxiety. It's just getting them to sleep at night. But hitting them when it's just still, a little bit like confused.
Right.
And then puzzle games. Using the mind, right? Hiding their food, making them search for things. A third of the dog's brain is dedicated to scenting, so having those puzzle games that are food motivated can be really helpful.
Right. Those are great tips and tools. I think what we'll do is we'll have you come back to talk about cats, because very different, but they do start aging about the same time.
So seniors 10 for cats.
Seniors 10. Okay. So
not much different.
Not much different, but yeah, let's have you come back and talk about senior cats, and then also Lap of Love, because it's a company near and dear to my heart. I've used your services, so we'll talk about that more.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us on Pets Ed Life.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, we decided to have Dr. Mary Gardner back because she is a wealth of information for those of us with aging or geriatric pets. So thanks so much, Dr. Gardner, for being back with us.
Of course.
So you have a passion for helping aging pets live their best life in the golden years.
I do.
We've talked to you about dogs. Let's talk about cats. How can pet parents make their aging cat's life more comfortable at home?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we have to recognize that the cats are not comfortable. And because they're so different than dogs, and dogs are out walking or, they're a bit more active, let's say, people don't recognize that their cats are maybe struggling. And almost 100% of cats have some form of arthritis over the age of 10. Like the statistics are massive.
Right.
But because they're not as mobile and going out for walks, we don't notice it.
Sure.
So first, being aware of the subtle changes. So it could be that they're not only are they maybe not jumping up and down off the couch, but maybe like having a little bit harder time where they like slide down and they're using like almost their hands to brace, like a railing. Subtle signs, maybe the fur is sticking up on their spine a little bit. They're not going to their sunny spot like they used to. So that's important, and sadly, so many cats are not seen by their veterinarian, and they can help assess pain. So making sure that your cat goes to the vet, and if your cat is a little bit scared to go to the vet, just bring them a few times where there's nothing that gets done.
Right.
Just go for, maybe get a weight and then come back home.
Maybe get a treat when they get back.
A treat and get back, right? So that's really important.
That's great advice. And it is important to be so vigilant as a cat mom or dad, because cats are great at masking pain and...
They just kind of, they don't complain as much. They're not panting, they just kind of curl up and they're not necessarily high, but they're just maybe not as interactive.
Right.
But there's so much that we could do. So of course there's a lot of things that we could do medicine-wise, and early diagnosis of any disease is so much better than catching it later. But there's a lot of things that we could do in the house to make them more comfortable and safe. And whether it's orthopedic beds, we see so much for dogs, but cats like an orthopedic bed too.
Yeah, I saw one online last week that is actually heated, an orthopedic bed.
That's massive, because a lot of our cats start to lose muscle weight. We all say skinny old cat because they actually have something called sarcopenia, which is muscle weight loss or muscle loss. And then there's cachexia, which is muscle loss, but also because of a disease, like hyperthyroidism or diabetes, but just get old skinny cats, and they lose fat and muscle, and so then they are not thermoregulating as well. So they need heat. They love sunny spots. They can't get to their sunny spot. So heating beds or your laptop is is a great thing for cats. So I love a heating pad.
That's great. Great advice, Dr. Gardner. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
And
hope it was helpful.
You're always very helpful. Great advice for your senior pets. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
The product of the week.
Kristen, VMX is awesome because you get so many knowledgeable people in one place. So hearing about some of that expertise, especially around seeing your pets, I mean, that it sounds like Mary was truly a wealth of knowledge.
She absolutely was, and she offered to come back and talk to us some more sometime. So we'll have to have her.
Yep, get her on the calendar. I'd love the chance to grill her.
Grill her.
Yeah, no, I'd never do that. I don't know why I said that, but alas, I did. Let's move on.
Please.
The product of the week.
All right, it's time for the product of the week. And Kristen, I'm going to go ahead and defer to you and let you go first. What do you got for us this week?
Okay, I've got something pretty cool. This is for little pets, little tiny like hamsters or gerbils.
Yay.
Or it's called the Roam Happy. Oh wait, no, that's not what's. Yeah, it is. It's called the Roam Happy Habitat ball. Okay. It's a pet exercise ball. And here's what's so cool about it. They just got a new patent on this particular ball. Now, I don't know about you, but I used to have a little gerbil named Jiffy. And Jiffy had one of those little balls.
Yeah.
That it's clear plastic and they can run around the house. Well, it was forever. The little door was falling off and he was getting loose in the house, which causes a lot of problems, especially when you have a cat. Anyway. This is the first major innovation in hamster exercise equipment in 40 years.
Wow. Okay.
And it is a much safer alternative to traditional exercise balls. So here's how it's different. It's got screwed together construction with a proprietary 2-step locking system to prevent those accidental openings that we always had happen with Jiffy. Also, I wasn't familiar with this problem, but apparently there are no more dangerous fish hook prongs or split open accidents. Oh, I guess that's like when it breaks open, like not the door, but the ball itself breaks. And then finally, there is paw protection, a ventilation system that has tiny 2-millimeter holes, which eliminates the risk of those painful paw traps or getting their claws trapped in there. So much safer hamster gerbil exercise ball, and they are available on Amazon.
That's
Link
great.
is in the show notes.
It's about time somebody looked at the hamster ball, right? You know, we've been doing it the same
Right?
way. You know what I mean? We've talked to so many guests about how the dog and cat products are becoming more humanized, and it's time that hamsters and gerbils and guinea pigs it's time they got their turn.
That's right.
All right,
what is your product?
I've got a research I do for the show. But
Yeah.
I get their ads all the time. And they call it their chase system. And what it is basically this thing you set up in your yard, and it has these little stakes that you put into the ground, and this like rope and pulley system that you go ahead and you set up almost like a chase course for your dog of any talent. And it could be used for agility training. It could be used for enrichment. Easy enough for any average Joe to set up. And you run it off of your app, and you basically attach a little flag or flyer to it, and this thing just scoots around this little pulley system that you set up automatically, and lets your dog do a little bit of chasing. And you could set up rest intervals and intensity and speed, and all that stuff is just controllable from your phone. So it's a great way to both bond with your animal and kind of go outside and run around with them. Or if, you've got an active dog, a border collie, a husky that really needs that extra exercise while you're working from home or whatever, or you got to be a Chris and answer some emails and you can't be distracted, you go ahead and set up this course. I guess it takes a few minutes on their website, obviously going to be in the show notes. They have some videos from some influencers setting it up, and you can kind of see how simple it is and how they use the product. I think it's really cool. I think this is a really awesome, innovative product that is great for those folks with active dogs in that backyard. So you can do more.
You know
than
who's
just
going to
let
love
them out.
this?
Yeah.
Tulip. My dog Tulip would love this.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely checking out. You said Swift Paws, right?
Swift Paws. They have a few different kits. I'm looking at what they call the Chase Kit, which is a good sort of introductory level. It's got a whole bunch of stuff that comes with it. Retailing on their website right now for just about 300 bones. But it really is a cool one. Really jumped out to me at Global as something I got to talk about on this show.
Q&As.
All right, Kristen, it's time for our favorite part of the show where we're going to answer some warning questions. Some real go-getters have jumped onto our website and asked some questions. And I know what you're thinking. How do I get my super important pet-related question answered by the PAL experts, Chris and Kristen? Well, it's simple. Head on over to petsadlife.org/podcast. Scroll on down to the bottom of that page, and you'll see a form to submit that question. Or if you are feeling as brave as, I don't know, Chris making it to the end of this show, man. Whew, sheesh. He's gassed. He's out of steam. Or yeah, you know what? That's a good one. If you're feeling as brave as that guy's turtle, or maybe that guy who decided that he really can trick TSA. Brave but stupid, and they say that bravery is the cousin of stupidity. They don't say that, but I am now. You can record it. The whole point is you can record a voice memo, people. That's all I'm trying to say. Go on to the website.
Yeah, where were you going with that?
Yeah, I'm going to the voice memo point. Record your voice memo. While you're there, be sure to follow us on all the socials. But hey, let's get right into it. Kristen, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
And this question is coming from Alex in Texas. And Alex asks, I've noticed that my dog's breath has become quite unpleasant lately. Just noticing that now, Alex? Could this indicate a dental problem? And what steps should I take to address it?
Oh, Austin. Oh, no, it's Alex from Austin. Alex, thank you for the question. That's a really important question because we've talked about dental care a lot on the show. We've featured dental products. And the reason it's important is because dogs and cats are highly disposed to periodontal disease. As a matter of fact, I read the statistic. I'm probably going to butcher it a little bit, but it was something like half of pets have signs of periodontal disease by the time they're 2 years old.
Wow. So
I would say, Alex, that there are three possible causes for your dog's bad breath. Either he has the onset of periodontal disease, which is basically just that plaque and tartar buildup on the teeth and gums. Or it's possible that your dog could have an abscessed tooth. And that would be stinky. And it would, if you've noticed that your dog might be eating funny or not eating at all, that could be a sign that they're in pain. So in either one of those two cases, I would say you definitely want to see your vet. Number 3 would be maybe they just are eating something really stinky. I don't know. Like there's a thing called coprophagia, which is when dogs eat their own, you know what, or other dogs. Number 2. I think you would know that though, because
I hope so.
I think you would know that already. Or maybe he's just eating something gross outside. So if you notice that it is something that's recurring, it's every day, it's not okay, that went away, then I would definitely suggest that you go see your vet and talk to them about dental cleaning and also dental maintenance to keep your pet's teeth clean and free from that nasty bacteria buildup.
Yeah, absolutely. There's all sorts of, and if it's just bad breath, there's all sorts of products out there. I think a lot of people take their pet's dental health for granted, but it's important for dogs. It's important for cats. And if you want your dog or cat to have a long and comfortable life, just like people, you got to take care of them teeths. So be sure to pay attention, and thank you for your question, Alex.
Alrighty, Chris, I have a question for you now. And this one comes from Jordan in Denver. And Jordan says, my dog has started showing aggressive behavior, especially when chewing on certain toys or objects. What might be causing this, and how can I manage or correct this behavior?
That's a great question there, Jordan, and I gotta be honest, my brain is fried. I've been going through it, so I'm calling in a lifeline. I'm dialing the phone right now, and I'm bringing back in Dr. Patricia McConnell to answer this one for us. So, Patricia, thanks for jumping back in to answer this question for Jordan. What do you got for us?
Yeah, that's a common problem, that kind of possessiveness, basically, it's mine. I mean, it's sort of inherent in dogs' ancestors, right? Mm-hmm. Some dogs never do that. Some dogs are pretty bad about it. It can get a little scary. So the quick answer, but anybody who's dealing with an aggression problem, I really want you to meet up with an applied behaviorist, a really good professional trainer who knows about current common scientific dog training methods and uses positive reinforcement. So I don't punish that behavior. What I do is I teach the dog, oh, you don't want me to take that toy. Let's just say it's a toy. You don't want me to take that toy away. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to teach you that if you let me take that toy away, you're going to get something better. So when I reach my hand towards you, rather than being like, oh, you're going to take it away, it's like, oh, that means I might get chicken. So the really brief, and again, I really want you to work with somebody on this, but it's called counter conditioning and counter classical conditioning. And what I want you to do is figure out what toy, right? What's a relatively high value toy, but not maybe the worst of the group, right? Maybe not a real steak bone or something. And then you just walk forward and sort of lean a little bit. Don't set the dog off. Don't let the dog be growling yet. You're just setting up a context where I might move forward and reach my hand forward and take that away from you. But you're going to take the piece of chicken you have stashed in a little bag behind your back, and you're going to throw it 5 feet away. And the dog's going to go, ooh, chicken. So he goes and gets chicken. You pick up the toy, and then you hand it back to the dog. You leave, dog chews on the toy, you walk back again, and you do that 5 times in a row. And then gradually over time, understanding, being able to read the dog, that's why you need somebody to help you. Gradually over time, you just get closer and closer, and eventually you can just take it away. And the dog is like, I love it when you take away because sometimes I get chicken. And of course, they don't ever get chicken, right? They just, my mother does not need to tell me to brush my teeth in the morning. It just becomes part of the routine. Yeah. So that's the quick answer. Chris, does that satisfy your soul?
Hey, you did a much better job than I would have. I would have been like, send the dog to jail. But thank you again for jumping in and helping Jordan with their question.
Good luck, Jordan.
Man, thank goodness we had Patricia there because I'm fried. It's over for me. It's absolutely over. And, this is the first time I'm happy we're at the end of our show because I need a nap. I need to go rest up and get recharged. But hey, the good news is we'll be right back here next Tuesday. You don't have to worry about that at all. We're going to be right back here, always bringing you episodes, no matter what. I don't care what happens. We are going to be here for you. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. We'll be back next Tuesday. Until then, be kind to yourself, be kind to your animals. And Kristen, what do you got to say for us today?
Well, if you got a bone to pick with Chris, you're going to have to wait till next Tuesday. We'll see you then.
Get in line. You got a bone to pick with Chris? Get in line.
Pets Add Life, your guide to the latest in pet trends, products, and the joy of the human-animal bond, with Kristen Levine and Chris Bonifati, powered by the American Pet Products Association and Dog TV.